Hey guys, so this is Al from Altruistic Channel, and I am touching base today. I, like everyone else in the country, am dying to see the next season of Surviving Scientology in the Aftermath. As many of you know, I am a survivor of Scientology in that sense. I was a Sea Org member when I was 13, 14, and 15. And what I wanted to talk about today isn't so much what has already been discussed, but a little bit more in depth on the ramifications, whether they are mental or whether they are physical, that go along with surviving a cult of that magnitude. And so one of the things that I noticed when I was watching the shows is that we can't help but get angry. And anger is probably the easiest of emotion for us. We've been trained not to be emotional. So there are things like the way that you walk, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you are, almost emotionless at all times. And so the one thing that was allowed was anger. And whether it was your commanding officer of your organization or whether it was you yourself having to act on behalf of a higher up, anger was definitely readily available. And it was something that was actually rewarded in many ways. And so when you see us go from stoic and maybe like one or two tears coming out of the side of our eyes, that was the most we were allowed, that was the most we were allowed to share. And so as adults and as people who grow up, I mean, if you think back on my life, I served when I was 13, 14, 15. I'm now 40 years old. And to think of how much it's influenced who I've become is very scary. You know, I get a lot of flack from people saying that the things that I'm encountering, the having been followed and the photography and being narked on and all of that stuff is in my head, and I've kind of I've been dealing with that for quite some time now. But ever since the show came out, it seems like they've come out of the woodwork in that way, and I feel very much under attack, and there's not much anybody can do for us. And I am speaking for us because I can't be the only one. I'm not special. Well, I guess people want us to believe that we're special, but Ex Scientology members are not special. We are not unique. We are not anything to write home about. In fact, our families have deserted us. We have no weight or substance, and we are empty. And so I don't feel anything towards that. I don't feel like I deserve anything more than anyone else. In fact, people find me to be selfish and arrogant, which I find very interesting because I'm the first person to take ownership of everything. It could be something that I had absolutely nothing to do with, and I will immediately find fault in myself. And I find it interesting that though my brain processes the information accurately to tell me, okay, you can't take ownership for something you didn't do, I still override that with the fundamental beliefs that everything that happens to me is of my own making. And they talked about it a little bit on the show last night, and that's kind of what triggered me wanting to address it, was the fact that when bad things happen to you, when my mom died, she was under the belief that she could heal herself through prayer. Essentially prayer. It's not called prayer, obviously, but I'm just going to make it an Americanized version of the verbiage. But that she somehow did something in her life to pull that in, and that she deserved what she was getting. And that through Scientology, she would be able to heal herself in some way. And having a son like me didn't really help, because I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but when I was younger, I was diagnosed 3 times with terminal illness that never materialized, and to this day we don't know what it was. But twice I had to call my family at different hospitals. I suddenly got really, really sick, and I ended up in the ER both times. One was at a fraternal party, and then was at some other event shortly thereafter. And both times I ended up in the hospital, and they basically told me that my levels were really high and that it was really bad, and that I needed to take care of my goodbyes, and that I needed last rites and all this stuff. And my mother was there, and she was kind of watching this all. And I speak about it in the book, Dual Purpose. I speak about it to some degree, but I did it from the angle of the inner monologue and then the actual physical interpretation of why things are happening to me. And I did it in an interesting way so that people would be a little bit more intrigued. Obviously, the book hasn't sold very much, but that's nor here nor there. I kind of did it more just to declare myself in full with all of my faults and all of my problems and issues that I have, because I knew that this cult would come after me with both barrels. And what I found for myself was that sorry, the hair keeps getting in my face. It looks good, but it's really annoying the hell out of me. And we'll get into the hair thing later, but basically it has to do with the TV show that I might be, that I can't really cut my hair for until I've shot. Anyway, bygones. Moving on. So I forgot where I was, but basically, essentially what I'm trying to say is that my mother, the 2 times I went into the hospital that I was going to die, they could not figure out what it was. And for some reason, I knew better, and I just got up, and I basically told my mom, like, if I'm going to die, I'm going to fucking die in bed. I'm not going to fucking die in this goddamn hospital. And so, against the judgment of the medical staff, I got up and I left. Now, I don't know, that's what I was speaking about the book. I don't know if the fact that I got up and I left triggered something in her that made her believe that the Scientology thing was working. But you got to understand, by this point, I was already about 18, 19 years old, because it was the fraternity days, so I was about 19, or maybe 20. But the moral story is that I had long since left Scientology as far as a Sea Organization member. I was still trapped in the belief that I had to be on good terms with them, because that's the way it operates. I would lose my family if I didn't, and I didn't want to lose my mom. And not because I couldn't handle my own, because I figured out very early on that I could handle myself out there. And I was helping the other ex-Sea Org members who were minors, who their parents had deserted them and left orphans, essentially, living on the streets of Los Angeles. And they were living at my house. And so I had this responsibility to not only take care of myself, but to take care of them, and to somehow make a balance, because I couldn't take the power away from them and basically telling them, like, I'm going to leave and you're going to come with me and you're never going to see your family again. I'm making that decision for you. I couldn't do it. And so I don't know if that's what prompted me to understand that I would be okay, but I don't know what that did to my mom. Like, I don't know if she saw me get up both of those times, and obviously I'm still here and I'm doing great, and, well, great is relative, but I'm doing well. The body healed itself in whatever it was, and we still don't know what the 2 times that occurred, what actually caused my levels to go so badly and to put me in such dire situation. But either way, I got up. And so I don't know what that triggered in my mom. And so when my mom got sick, she very much believed that Scientology bullshit about that you are that you did something in your life and that you pulled that in. And so despite all of my best efforts to try to dissuade her on this, she ended up literally dying because she refused to get medical help, and she died of septic shock, which is quite painful, and she died of something preventable. And my stepfather and I have never spoken about it, because he kept saying, don't even go there. And now that I can't stand him, and now that I realize that he's just an asshole, I really don't care what his opinion is. I know for a fact that had she been with me, she would have seen a doctor. I was already a pharmacy tech at that point, and I was going to go into school to be, I was about to go into USC to go be a pharmacist. And so I had all these plans, and my mom died 1 month before her 50th birthday. And I've never forgiven the church for that. But instead of seeking some sort of revenge or some sort of retaliatory action, I instead focused on my stepdad. And I really believed that he was my dad, and that he wanted me to take his last name. And in some files, I actually do have his last name. In fact, you probably won't be able to find some of my records because I'm not under my last name. It was to that degree. And so I really wanted a relationship with him, but his stance was that he would only have a relationship with me if I was on good terms with the Church of Scientology. And I despised the church for what they did to me. I was a minor when I served in the Sea Organization. And they briefly touched on some of the stuff that happened, but we're really cautious about the way we word things. And I'm not sure if that is a diplomatic aspect, a bureaucratic ramification of being in the church, or if it's just common sense. But whatever it is, it has lasting effects. And so the more I bottle things up, and the more angry I got inside about the fact that my mother died from this cult, and I lost all of my childhood to this cult, and the fact that I didn't get to go to school, and that I had to teach myself everything that I learned, and that every little step that I took 50 fucking yards of like of me just suffering and suffering in order to get to the same place that my cohorts that went to regular school did with Breeze. It just, everything became that much harder. And I became very angry. And the bitch that existed in the 5th and 6th grades, the one that made me so damn popular that I didn't understand, really magnified itself. And I became the Shannon Doherty of the fucking, of California. And in the worst possible way. I love Shannon Doherty, but I'm just going to use the reputation she has for being a cunt. I was a cunt to the umpteenth level, and I know people don't like that word, but I really don't care. It is the right verb, it is the right word for this expression. And so the effects became almost immediate. I became very, very, very untrustworthy. I've never trusted anybody. I've never been in love, and I don't think I ever can be in love, because whether you believe it or not, when you are indoctrinated to this belief that even your own parents will turn you in, and that no one is above sharing your personal secrets and things that you confide in them, if they get caught doing something else, that's the first thing that comes out of their mouth. So for me to ever say that I can love somebody is bullshit, because I know for a fact that in my head, I see that relationship as a business. I don't see it as a, I'm so in love with you, because I don't trust anyone. I've never trusted anyone. And ramifications like that are not something that you can just go to counseling and get rid of. It's part of who I am. I mean, I was in puberty when I started as a Sea Organization member. And the way that they got me in was CMOPAC, which was this Commander's Messenger Organization, which was specifically geared towards minors. It is believed that minors are unlike adults, and that we are able to go ahead and deliver commands and orders to the right people effectively without changing it, because we have no inference. We have nothing that we're going to add or change in the delivery of it. And so that level of responsibility was very, very early on. But again, how can you then trust anyone? How can you ever believe in anyone? My own parents, I mean, everything that I've encountered, all the secrecy and the following and the things that they've done to me, you have to realize that it comes from my parents. My parents tattled on me, essentially. They told everything about my life and all of my secrets. The fact that I was gay before I was willing to say I was gay. They outed me. The fact that I had to live on PAC. I lived literally on what was originally was 1412 Berendo. Now it's 1412 L. Ron Hubbard Way, which really pissed me off. So all of this anger kept building and building and building. And by the end of it, I got to the point where I could no longer handle my own skin, and I tried to kill myself, and there were all these things that just kept going. And the worst part of it all is that I can't die. Like I've tried to OD, it didn't work. I've tried to like hang myself, it didn't work. I've tried all these things, and people keep telling me the same freaking thing, which is you're meant to be here for a grander, you're meant to be here. That's just God saying that you have more work to do. And I gotta tell you, being a survivor of this cult, that does not help me. In fact, I feel more in purgatory than ever. And I've sought out counseling. I'm very cautious still to this day of the psychiatry thing, mainly because even though I know that it's bullshit, I grew up believing that psychiatry is evil and that it's bad. And I have read reports on the flashbacks to certain hallucinogenics and stuff like that. So there is some level of credence to it that I had to give it. And so my practical brain kept trying to marry the non-emotional parts that I wasn't expressing, if that makes sense. And so it led to a very, very, very dominant personality type that is very, very much about educating myself in every possible way on something before I act or say anything. And it lends itself to the INTJ personality thing, which is great, I guess, but we're called masterminds, and we're manipulative, and it just seems like it's not the best, most rewarding personality type. I see its merit, but I also see the bad parts of it. And I can't, at this point, at 40, I'm 40 fucking years old, and I'm still dealing with the ramifications of this cult. And I don't know what to do with it. I don't know. I wish I could sue the fuck out of them, but I've gone to the police and I've gone to the officials and I've asked them for help. You know, there has to be some sort of system or something in place for American citizens who are in this level of dire situations to get help, because we're drowning. And it's not just me. I'm just vocal about it. I'm just the asshole in your fucking face that I don't give a fuck. Like, if you're gonna, I don't feel physical pain, so we can fucking knock the shit out of each other. It's not gonna bother me. And so part of that is just anger, and it just builds and builds and builds. And it pisses me off that it's the one thing that they granted us as human beings, that we were allowed to show anger. And so it's the one thing that I run with. And I really wish I could change it. I would love to be in love with somebody. I would love to sometimes ever trust anybody, but it will never happen. And I say never, knowing that for myself, that the way that my brain processes information, whether it's from this, or it's simulated from this, or it's somehow derivative from what I grew up in, it doesn't matter. In the end, there are effects that change who we are, and we're dead inside. I am a dead human being on the inside. I only know two things. It is what it is, or batshit fucking crazy. And that's not acceptable to me. And so though I try to do my best to learn and to do things, I can't get over the fact that I'm angry at the fact that it was allowed to happen and that no one can help me even to this day. There's got to be something that can work for us. And so I know that if it's going on for me, can you imagine being born into this cult like the cadets were that were forced into the Sea organization when they were 11, 12, 13, and 14? There's a whole gaggle of us. It's not just Leah Remini and Sherry and all of them that were, and Crystal. They were not just all of them around PAC. There was another group that came right behind them, and that's my group. And that was me, Amber, Brad, all of these people that are affected for the rest of their lives, that probably run around just as dead as I am, will never trust anybody for the rest of their lives, can never fully love anyone because they just know that love is a betrayer. Everyone that we love turned their backs on us. My mother gave me up to this organization because I thought that I was a man. I was doing her a service by getting off of her having to pay for me financially. But in truth, you don't let a 13-fucking-year-old boy make that decision and then back it up. And so then she was going to come into this organization with me. And then they made her a lieutenant. And then they threw her away because she got sick. And mind you, not only sick, but sick that she pulled in somehow by herself. So imagine the layers of depression and betrayal that my mother went through. And that's why she died. I mean, in the end, she gave up on life, and that was her decision. I've had to make peace with that. And by the way, the asshole made me pull the fucking plug on her. So at 25 years old, I'm faced with a situation where, thanks to 9/11, my mother and I had a conversation about the right to die, essentially. And I told her in my own way, and this again is covered in the book, and a dual purpose that I wrote that nobody fucking reads. But I did it as a calling card. I needed to get rid of all of this bullshit before I went out and made a brand for myself and made my life better, because I knew that this cult was going to come after me hard. I have no problem saying what happened. I have no problem taking them head on, and I'm the asshole that's in their face, and I'm kind of like a male version of Leah Remini. I don't give a fuck. You got to do what you got to do. You can come after me as hard as you want, but I've already taken away your power. I put out all the facts that I did drugs when I was younger. I put out all the facts that I fucked like a crazy little squirrel trying to find a nut in prison. Like, I was just all over the place, and I put it out there first so that I would depower you. You have no control over me, and that's what makes me so freaking dangerous to you. But you can't take me on because of the fact that if you did, everything that happened as a minor, you would have to justify, and you would have to deal with it in court. And you're not brave enough to do it, are you? But you're going to fucking hide your wife, and you're going to do all this stuff, and you're going to hurt all these people that I know still are hurting. And then you expect me to kiss your fucking ass and to back down. I'm not backing down. But I am going to say that whether or not they are following us, or whether or not they are somehow doing things that are detrimental to our bodies and to who we are, and making us feel like we're batshit crazy or whatever it is, whether it's real or not real, you're still responsible for every fucking bit of it. So no matter how this goes, I don't care if you fucking kill me, at the end of the day, you are still responsible for the ramifications of the mental anguish and the mental hurt that we as Ex Scientology members have had to deal with. And the fact that you somehow think that you can wash your fucking hands because I only served for 2 years and Leah only served for 1 year, and no, motherfucker, you're gonna pay for it. And until I die, I'm gonna figure out a way for you to fucking do it. But don't sit there and tell me that I'm crazy. And people who don't know, don't come to me and tell me that I don't know what's going on, or that I somehow made this up. Whether that's true or not, because I know it's not true, but let's say it wasn't true. Who the fuck are you to tell me what I can and cannot experience when I went through such an ordeal? You can't even justify why you can't be faithful to your wife. So shut the fuck up. You are in a completely different world, absent of responsibility. And I get mad about it because you're telling me that they can't do this. They have millions and millions and millions of dollars at their disposal. And who is the largest threat to that church right now? It's minors. People who served in the organization as minors, because we did not go to school. We did not get fed accurately. We were paid $50 a week. We were slave labor conditions. We built the fucking ranch by hand. We did not go to school except the little stupid thing where it's Saturdays. And Saturday, if we were allowed to, because work was so heavy, we would have to sit there and go to the library, or we would have to learn. And all of the belief was that we just had to pass the GED. Higher education was not believed in. We did not go to school. So don't tell me, who has survived something like this, that it isn't what it is. It is. And what has happened now is it's further isolated me, because those people that have stepped to me, like I'm not going to say who they are, but the best you're going to get is I'm going to punch you in the fucking face and I'm going to knock the shit out of you. Because don't tell me what I have gone through and what I haven't gone through, or what they still are capable of. Because all I know is that my dad won't talk to me, no one will talk to me, I've been isolated yet again, my life has been turned upside down again, and whether I did it because I believed them to be doing something, or they did it to me, which I know that that's the truth, is going to be hard to prove, right? Because that's what millions and millions of dollars can do, especially because there's only There's 16 of us that I can't find beyond MySpace. I only find on Facebook. But no one can help us because of the way that the system is structured. And that's fine. I don't begrudge America anything on this. Look, this is all new to all of us, so let's be very clear on that. I'm not saying that the police department are assholes or idiots for not being able to help. I can see the problem. I'm not stupid. I'm a self-educated man, and I've done quite well for myself, so don't placate me. What I'm saying, though, is that those of you out there, have some compassion and empathy for these people, because at the end of the day, they have ruined our lives. And it's me now standing up, and Leah and Sherry and everybody that's standing up and dealing with this. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know what these assholes are capable of, or what they're putting us through. I mean, they're starting to talk about it in season 3. That's why I'm waiting for it, because this is stuff that I'm going through all the way in Louisiana. Let me put it that way. And I'm doing great things for humanity, and I'm going to be a great leader in the world, and I'm a great motivational speaker because I've survived things that you could possibly never imagine. But at the end of the day, don't step to me the wrong way, because I am just ghetto enough to knock the fuck out of you. And that anger, I want to get rid of. I want to get rid of that cadence that I have. But I can't as long as this cult is able to torment and to bother us and to harass us. And the fact that we haven't been not able to do anything to protect ourselves, and we keep getting our lives destroyed, makes us even more isolated. I would love to see the numbers on the suicide rate of Ex Scientologists, because I believe it's really fucking high, and I believe that it's not fair. But at the end of the day, what I'm basically saying to you guys is, before you judge someone else, understand 2 things. It's a perception thing. It's part of my perception series, which is, if you've never walked the walk, then shut the fuck up. And it's really that simple. Because you don't know what we've gone through. And there are things that we are not able to speak on because there's no translation into English language. And so it makes it even harder to communicate outside of other Scientology members. And the last thing an ex-Scientology member, especially an ex-Sea Org member, wants to talk about is being an ex-fucking Sea Org member. It's stuff that we don't want to remember. And it's stuff that we have to deal with, and we don't know what's true and what's not true. And we're left in this confusion state where nobody believes us. And if we say anything, people come at me the wrong way. I end up beating the shit out of this motherfucker, and I'm in trouble because he stepped, like, it's just nonstop. It just does not end. So what I'm basically saying is, guys, when you look at this stuff, understand that there are human beings. I am a human being on the other end of this. And you're not helping me, telling me that it's in my head. It doesn't matter if it's in my head. It's still terrorizing me. It is something that they do so that they can control us. And the more that you feed into it, and the more that you come at me in such negative ways and tell me that I'm full of shit, or that I'm making shit up, you are doing more damage to that soul than is possible. Their sole goal for Ex-Scientology, Sea Org members specifically, is to break the soul. They are breaking our souls. And so do me a favor. Don't play into that. Don't be a cult member. Don't sit there and say that you know absolute something when you don't. Because even I, who am from that experience, do not know everything absolute. I just know the signs. I know what to look for. And on the fair game policy, there's a lot of things that you guys don't know that they can do. They can literally kill us, and it would be justifiable in that cult. So don't tell me that they're not capable of something simple like hacking, especially when my dad feeds them all of my information. Like, it's a whole different level of crazy. And instead of making me feel crazy when I know I'm not, all you're going to get is anger. And then you're going to isolate that person even more. So how about a little empathy? How about putting yourself in a situation where you are 12, 13, 14 years old and you're in puberty and you're trying to find out who you are as a person. And put yourself in the situation of, on top of it, let's say you're gay and you can't tell anybody. And then that outs you. And then your parents go and tell all of your secrets. And then your entire life gets destroyed. And then your mom dies. And then you have to live through that and you become a drug addict or you become a sexual addict, which was my addiction, was sex addict. I can walk away from drugs. It's not a big deal to me. It's just fun for the sex part. And so don't blanket label people when you don't know all of the things that make them who they are. And then, because what it does is it kills off that next level of empathy. Because at this point, I'm getting to the point where I'm alone. I'm basically homeless because I don't want to put roots down anywhere. I know what's going on. I know that they're coming after me again because I won't shut up about it. And I'm not going to stop. And so it makes it really hard for me to then open up to anybody. And then with the cops not being able to do anything, and then the shrinks telling me that I need to go to therapy. Well, I'm not going to go to therapy over something that I know that is going on. But at the same time, I don't even have friends anymore. They've all turn their back on me because I am either nutty to them or I'm making things up or whatever the justification is. It's a very lonely life, and I'm willing to take that head on. But what I'm asking everyone else to do is to put yourself in the situation of a scared 12, 13-year-old. Or how about the people who had to leave with their parents not anywhere near them? The people that lived in my house with my fucking asshole stepdad who won't even talk to me. And I'm sorry if he feels offended by it, but he can go fuck himself. Like, you're feeding them all of the secrets of my life and all of my deep inner monologues and things that I shared with you as my father, not as a fucking cult member. And you're telling them all this, and they have it in writing, and they're using it against me, and you won't take the weight of what that does to your son? Then fuck you. And then you make money off my mom dying? Fuck you even more. So I'm sorry if he gets offended, but at this point, I don't care anymore. I'm isolated. I'm scared. I'm completely unnerved. I don't know who I can trust, and it makes me trust less. And I can't put people I really care about in jeopardy because I don't know what's actually happening and what's not happening. And so no one will help me figure out the two. And so it puts me in this weird situation where all I can do is talk to people who probably don't care. I mean, my book hasn't sold anything, so I don't think anybody cares about my story. And that's what we're here or there. Like, I'm not saying it to get sales. I'm just saying that I did it as a way to do a calling card, to brand myself in my own empire. I want to help not just Ex Scientology members. I want to help entrepreneurs throughout this country and throughout the world. These people dedicate their entire lives to what they believe in, and it doesn't always pan out, and they take it personally, and they're killing themselves left and right. I'm losing people to entrepreneurships. I'm losing people to being Ex Scientologists, and we're just washing our hands clean of it, and nobody's helping out. Well, I'm going to help out. But first I have to get over the big elephant in the fucking room, which is this fucking cult. You are not going to hold me down. I'm not scared of you. And if anything, I'm even more determined than ever before to see this all the way through. You think that you have me, but you have nothing. Because at the end of the day, everything that I've done as an adult, I did myself. And I did it with the intention of one day making sure that you pay for every fucking thing that you did to me, whether it's in my head, whether it's not in my head, or whether it's not. You are going to rue the day that you ever fucked with my family. And the fact that my mom died of it just fuels it even more. And the fact that you actually have my stepfather believing that I'm the asshole and that I'm suppressive is even more farther. So I think I'm gonna end there. Like, honestly, you just feel the fire, and I don't need to be on the show. People keep asking me, well, if it's so true, why don't you go on the show? Because I don't need to be on a show. My face is known by everybody around me. I'm a very good person, and people love me to death, but they don't understand my reality, and that's fine. I don't begrudge them. Just make sure that you don't come at me disrespectfully, and I won't have to knock the shit out of you. And that's basically it. I have made my decisions to fight this fight to the day I die, because at some point in time you will pay for everything that you've done, Scientology, and I'm not going to stop until you do. But that means that I'm supposed to suffer more? Well, I'm not okay with that. And neither are the other Sea Org members. Not everybody can be on that show, because if they did, it would be fucking in the Superdome. That's where the fuck they would have to hold it. And so, I'm just asking for you guys to have a little bit of empathy. If you know a Sea Org member, look, even if you don't believe it, just pretend that you believe it, just so they have an ear. Because all of this in my head is driving me nuts. And it's making me a little more than just a little eccentric. And I don't think that's fair for everybody. So just do me a favor, y'all. Have a little bit of compassion for other human beings. Understand that you cannot possibly know everything that went on. There are books out there, mine, Dual Purpose, or Leah's book is amazing, and Sherry's is amazing, and then Jenna Miscavige's was an amazing book. Like, that's one of the best books on understanding some of this stuff. But we're all in this fraternal organization that we can't get out of, and it's not something that we wanted to be in. But what we do want is we want people to help us. I have some issues with Mr. Resner. He's doing great at trying to redeem himself, but it's hard for Sea Org members who knew Mr. Resner when he was on post, or knew of him at that time, to forgive some of the things, because we were on the receiving end of it. I wasn't personally, I just know of him, but it makes it a little uncomfortable. So that's another level. It's not fair to him. And that's a big point. It's not fair to Mike Resner that we're holding him up to a different standard than anybody else. But you have to understand that from our standpoint, we can't trust anybody. We've never been able to trust anyone. And so that leads to issues with him. And so a lot of people won't come forward. So that leaves an even larger percentage of us 100% isolated on our own. And I just ask you guys that if you know one of us that have survived, listen, don't interrupt. Don't put your bullshit into it. Just listen to it, and then see if you can help out from there. But we need help. I'm still very much in control of my life, and I'm just worried about those who aren't. And I don't know what happened to them. I can't find a lot of people, and it makes me nervous, because I know what's going on at the gold level. I know what's going on with Miscavige. He's losing control, and a sociopathic asshole like that is probably losing his shit right now. And so my dad chose his own path, and so if he gets ramifications for my speaking out, that's on him. And like he's proven to me over and over again, it is what it is, dude. I won't make nice with the church. You won't take responsibility for what you did to me, so you're going to have to take responsibility for your life, and I will take responsibility for mine. And I'm sorry that that's the way it came out. I love the man. He was really good to me, and it breaks my heart that I have to say it like that. But after all, your church, the one that's in control of your life, did this to me as well. And the person that you see is a byproduct of what you have allowed them to do to me, and what you allowed them to do to my mother. So on that note, I'm going to end it and just say, guys, have some compassion. I know it's a lot to take in, and I went over 30 minutes, which I normally don't do. We'll see if anybody even looks at this. But Scientology, you're going to have to pay for all of it. And just, guys, understand that whether it's something in our head or something that's part of it, or it's something real, or what you perceive to be real is different from what is real to us. Understand that my life is in turmoil because of the effects of being part of this organization, as is everyone else involved. So have a little compassion, a little empathy, and listen. That's the best thing I can tell you to do. Anyway, that's me, Al, checking out for Altruistic Channel. And have you made a mistake today?